Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
All right, Alex. Less than 2 months, man. You're back in the octagon. Niko Price, UFC 302. So it's always good to get on a big card. How did this fight get put together? Like, take us through the whole scenario.
Yeah, so especially after my last fight against Court, good fight, I took no damage, like, at all, which was cool. And I always look at, like, 6 months or maybe 3 months worth of fight cards, whatever they release on Tapology. And I always go through all the welterweight fights. And this card in particular at the time had 3 welterweight matches booked. Now they have 4. But it was Basil Hafez versus Mickey Gall, Phil Rowe versus Jake Matthews, which one I was really looking at, and then Jeremiah Wells versus Niko Price, and that was another one I was really looking at. And I was like, if any welterweight falls off, I'll be the first one to offer to step in. And, like, sure enough, it was Monday morning. I had just taught lunch class, and Ricky Tercios, my boy, he's fighting a week after me. He was like, hey, did you hear Jeremiah Wells pulled out? And I looked at him, and I literally ran to my phone and called my coach, and my coach called Hyon, and then in a couple hours we had a contract. And, dude, I was expecting this to happen with, like, 2 weeks notice, not 7 weeks notice. So to have a full fight camp was actually pretty awesome. And as from what I've seen right now, I think we're the opening bout on the pay-per-view main card. I don't know that you should just yet, but if that's the case, you better believe it's going to be an action-packed fight.
Yes, of course, man. I think it's gonna be an action-packed fight no matter what. But having that slot is so important for you, right? To, like, kind of build yourself up even more.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always had a goal to be on a main card pay-per-view. And I kind of achieved that with Ponzinibbio, but I almost feel like I didn't earn that because I took the fight on like 5 days notice and he was already on the main card. I thought it was really cool they kept us on there. But like this one, almost like 2 months out, they had a conversation on like who to put on the main card. And even if we end up on like the prelims, I'm cool with that too. But like as of right now on ESPN, I think we're the opening bout.
Yeah. Let's rewind back to the first fight in 2017. What do you remember from that training camp, the fight week, the aftermath?
Man, it was eerie. So I remember I had fought in December of 2015, and Dana White had actually called. He was like, hey, I wanted to say, thank you for competing. Merry Christmas. You'll be getting a bonus, which was really cool. And I was like so, struck that Dana White had called me. I was like, wait. And he was like, what? And I was like, there's a fight in Houston in February. Put me on there, please. And he did it. I got Sheldon Westcott. And dude, it was such a good matchup. And 2 weeks before the fight, I had like family flying in from New York. We had like a suite booked. Sheldon Westcott pulls out, and I had 2 options to fight. I didn't have an option. They gave me 2 names. They were like Bilal Muhammad or Niko Price. And I was like, whatever, whoever. And sure enough, Niko Price ended up stepping up. And man, like this, I used to hit my fight against him as an example to my students. That was arguably the best performance of my entire life, especially round 1. I didn't get hit at all. I dropped him twice. Was winning round 2 and just got caught in a brawl at the horn when I shouldn't have. It was my mistake. It was my fault for putting myself in that position. But man, like, it's just so weird because like the best I've ever felt and ever done resulted in a loss, which sucks. You got to control every aspect of the game. But I remember that fight incredibly well. I was grateful for Niko for stepping up on short notice too. It's actually kind of cool I get to return the favor. But you better believe I'm not going to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, and the fight was overturned due to the marijuana situation usage. Do you think marijuana should be banned or should it be legal for fighters?
So, man, it's actually that ban goes. There's a story behind it. I've known the Texas
Okay.
Department of Licensing and Regulation forever, and I was at like a local amateur show, and one of the head commissioners was like, "Hey, do you know your fight got overturned to a no contest?" And I was like, "No way, why?" And they're like, "He failed his drug test." And I was like, "What for?" And they're like, "Ah, we're not allowed to tell you." And I assumed it was steroids. So like performance enhancers, I was like pissed. I had this whole case ready to go to whoever, TDLR, Nevada, on like, if somebody pops for, performance enhancing drugs, they should be disqualified. It shouldn't be a no contest. But then I found out it was for marijuana, and I was like, oh, never mind. I'm gonna not argue anything and just be grateful that it was overturned. They did tell us that the Texas threshold was a lot different than Nevada. And then also, and I like Niko a lot, I really do, but he had the same thing happen when he fought Cowboy Cerrone in Nevada.
Yeah.
And man, that must have means you're token up the week of, the day before, day of. I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and assume, but I'm not gonna assume. But it I don't fail drug tests for that, and I'm like a recreational user, so like just control the action, don't get stuff overturned.
Definitely, definitely. And since that fight, you guys have both faced the who's who of like gunners in the welterweight division without fear, like both of you guys. And you guys have, and I think you've done much better than he has. I mean, he's been caught in a lot of, brawls, and that's what, the fandom comes from, is him, taking chances. What do you look at him now? How do you look at him now? What type of fighter do you see?
So I've said two things about Niko. One, he's a madman the way he fights, and two, he is must watch MMA. I've seen every one of his fights. Man, yeah, he has fought some heavy hitters. He's won by some crazy knockouts. He's lost by some crazy knockouts. But man, he is like always in there, like looking to kill. So like this is one of those fights. I feel like I can do my thing and be smart, but I just can't. I can't make a mistake. I can't mess up. Like I expect to absolutely perform my best, and I expect him to be at his best because I know he knows, he believes he can beat me because he made it happen once before. No matter how the fight was going prior, to him winning doesn't matter. So like I know he's going to be in it to win it. So I gotta make sure to be on my game.
Yeah, for sure. And he's definitely probably not token up. Hope not. You know what I mean? Just, I don't know. Maybe he is. Who knows? Um, but yeah, like, for you during camp, you're visiting these gyms and stuff like that. So right after your fight against Court McGee, are you still in that process, or did you pull back from that and just kind of focused in your gym? Is that what you were doing?
I took so my boy Ramez is fighting soon. I'm actually heading up to Dallas tomorrow. Now I'm back in camp, but I would have gone up no matter because he helped me. I got to be there to help him. He's fighting on the 18th. But I know it was so funny. I took no damage. I put my gi on Monday morning and I taught my lunch class and I got to roll hard and I got to pull guard. No, I'm just kidding. But like in camp, no pulling guard ever at all. So like I have to wrestle a lot, which is cool. So I got my rounds in. But dude, I even went to war on Thursday and sparred my 10 MMA rounds with those dudes. Like if I don't take any damage, man, I'm back to training, not because I want to be the best in the world, but because I love it and I think it's the most fun thing ever. And I had a hunch I'd be taking another fight on short notice, so I spent no time. My weight's nice and low, man. I'm actually eating a lot, which is cool early in this camp. And no, I mean, right back to it. And I tell you, I spent 7-8 hours on Saturday coaching at the grappling games. I had like 45 of my students, kids and adults, compete. We had over 100 matches. Then I had a bunch of guys fighting on the Submission Hunter Pro submission only card for Eric Garcia, who runs Fury on Fight Pass, and I was doing the commentary and coaching my guys there. And it's so cool. So I fight June 1st. One of my biggest amateur prospects is making his debut May 31st in Houston. I fight on Saturday, June 1st, and then one of my undefeated amateurs is fighting Sunday for Fury. So we got like a 5:45 a.m. flight back home. So I mean, we got guys fighting, 3 promotions, two different cities, weekends, back to back. And then the weekend after me, Ricky fights on Saturday the 8th, and my boy Jake and one of my amateurs fights for Fury on Sunday. So I mean, we have like a jam-packed, crazy early June, man. I'm pumped for that, the 2 weeks of madness.
Your life is engulfed in martial arts, like completely engulfed. Your commentary, gym, fighters, you fight, you coach, like it's just, when do you have rest time?
Man, it's not work to me. Everyone asks that. They're like, how do you do what? It's fun. I would do it, if I wasn't getting paid for it, if I wasn't like doing the commentary, I'd still watch the shows. I'd be there to watch my boys. I don't know, man. It's just been my life for so many years now, and I'm just grateful. I get to analyze so many matches. I feel like it makes me a better coach. As I feel it makes me a better teacher in the gym, and it makes me a better coach in the fights. And man, it's just that every tool I can use to sharpen my skill set, I'll do for myself and for my guys.
How did you walk away from the Court McGee fight with no injuries? That is baffling.
Man, it was bizarre. The significant strike count, man. I think I got hit in my head one time in the 3rd round with a right hand, but he did like a lot of low kicks and body shots, especially when I was he was in my guard. He like hit me in the body a bunch. I don't know, but dude, I mean, like I'm telling you, like my left shin was a little bruised from checking kicks. One thing I got to put on the record: I've never been calf kicked one time. Barely ever been low kicked. My kick check percentage is in like the high 90%. I've never been low kicked hard in a fight. I don't know what it feels like. I've checked the mess out of a lot of
Oh,
kicks, and I check all these kicks, and they're like, oh, he's throwing calf kicks. I'm like, no, he's not. He's throwing low kicks, and I'm checking them. And I got a great check for
mm,
calf kicks too. But like, it was so funny. My left foot was a little bruised up from kicking him, and like the tip of my shin was bruised from checking. And like, I know I checked every kick perfectly because the only thing that was dinged up was my actual shin and not my calf. So that needs to go on the record. I'm proud of my checked
yeah.
kick. If I could only have the same success in defending takedowns as I do checking kicks, then I think I'll come full circle.
Yeah, that's a extremely good arsenal, part of your arsenal, right? To be able to check it, because hey, man, like most people, they can't. They're not fast enough. They don't see it quick enough, and next thing you know, they're trying to check it, but they already got kicked.
Ever since I was a teenager, man, for whatever reason, checking kicks was always my jam. I have TKO'd a lot of training partners by mistake by checking a good kick and them not being conditioned for it.
By mistake. He said,
Their mistake, yeah.
yeah, their mistake for sure. Yeah, the Court McGee fight, right? It was a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup for anyone, and you're coming off the Buckley fight where you were disappointed, and bouncing back against Court McGee. Once you got your hand raised, right at the end of the fight, um, was that a big win for you? Like just personally, just coming back from a disappointing performance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a super veteran, tough champ. That was a strong feather in the cap. I really worked a lot of wrestling and clinch work in that fight, and I was very satisfied we didn't have to do a lot of that. We grappled a little bit in round two, but that was it. I was able to strike at range, didn't take any damage. There was like two goals I had for that fight. It was one to win, obviously, but two, like when I fought Buckley, I tried to make it really routine, and like my warm up was flat. The walk to the octagon wasn't exciting, so I really tried to live in the moment on the walk to the octagon, and I got to feel all of the nerves and excitement, and I feel like that translated in the fight very well. And yeah, I was a little less. My volume was a little lower in that fight because I didn't want to get taken down or give him like initiation entries into the clinch. But man, it was good. I was able to throw my one and my two, land some kicks, throw some spin and stuff, jump a gilly. It was a fun one, man. I was happy with that performance.
Nice. And in this fight, man, I know you're prepared for chaos, but I'm pretty sure you want to create the chaos and let him take the chaos, right? Like it's just what do you expect from this fight?
Yeah, so in my first fight with him, I had won round one, 10-8. I mean, I dropped him twice. The ref, or one of the judges, was one of my friends. He showed me, I'm not a friend, I just known him forever. He was like a black belt
Mm.
on the scene. And he showed me the scorecard. He's like, dude, I gave you 10-8, and then I gave you a 10-9 in round two. And I knew I had won round one super thoroughly, and I knew I was going to win round two. And right when the 10-second clapper hit, I threw an uppercut hook cross, and they all three landed. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to hit him again. So I just started banging, and I didn't need to. And I threw like a big, stupid overhand, and like I put my head in the line of his uppercut.
Oh,
Would have missed otherwise. It was so my fault. And like I was talking to a friend who was trying to make me feel better. And he's like, "Oh, you just got caught." And I was like, "I do not accept that as an excuse." I was like, "I put myself in that stupid position." And he's like, "Oh, you're being too hard on yourself." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I have to be, or else I'll make the mistake. I make that mistake again." So, like, no unnecessary brawling at all. Not gonna happen.
no Max Holloway moment at the end of the fight. God,
I don't know, man. I'll tell you, Gaethje, that favored Gaethje. Gaethje was gonna lose the decision if he
it
didn't make some.
was.
But
Yeah,
that was a worthwhile risk to take. That's what makes Max such a gangster. He could have coasted to a win, but he didn't. He
yeah.
made it crazy, and he is like he was already, a legend, but he has immortalized that status now.
And off topic, off your fight is this discussion of maybe possibly adding a new division at 165. I don't know if we've talked about this, but for you, would you be able to make that weight?
I could. I don't want to. I got, dude.
Okay.
I got my science down. I will never cut an extra ounce or sweat for an extra second. My last fight, I was
Mm.
like so excited to go fight that I was excited to do the weight cut. I went in at 171 pounds on the dot. Like I have my stuff down to a science. I showed up to fight week at 189 pounds. I was 18 pounds over. That's the heaviest I've ever been showing up. And it was like my best cut ever. I mean, ever. I'll tell you, being with Ricky in Mexico, he cut exactly enough weight, and he like really did his nutrition and rehydration like to a T. He inspired me to be even more of a professional. And I implemented that in this last weight cut. And and like re-nourishment phase. And dude, everything was so great. I can't wait to do it again. But no, I don't want to
Nice.
have to cut pounds. No, not at all. I'm down. I love being a welterweight. My
Okay.
cut's not that hard, but adding 5 pounds to it would not be, you know, an easy thing to do. So I'd rather keep things. I think Dana White's pretty set on not adding that in. I'm cool for
Yeah.
that. Because then like
Yeah.
then what? You go 155 and then 165 and then what 175 and then 185. I mean that's
Yeah.
too many to
Okay. Okay.
first.
And yeah. You know, there's a lot of differences in opinion with that weight division. And the last question, the main event for 302 is the lightweight title fight between Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier. You mentioned Jump Gilly. I love his quotes about that. What do you think of this fight? And do you feel like what do you think chances are for Dustin? Because clearly he's the underdog.
Man, so I mean, I got a big old painting of Habib at my gym. I have a lot of admiration for how good Islam is, but dude, I'm hard rooting for Poirier. I've been a big fan of Poirier forever. We actually have a mutual opponent in Derek Krantz. So like, even before he got to the UFC, I knew of him. And like ever since he got signed, I've always rooted for him and watched him. My first coach was from Louisiana, so we had like a lot of mutual friends. He likes to jump gillies. I love jumping gillies. But man, I'd like to see him become champion. Man, he's a super, you know, tenured veteran. He's got probably the hardest matchup anyone could have in the UFC. But dude, he's got hands of steel. He knows how to grapple. I mean, he's a southpaw, and in Makhachev's a southpaw. I think that's an interesting because like when he fought Connor, he does good against southpaws. Poirier does. I think it's if he can like grapple, you know, well with Islam and get his hands going, that'd be cool. And like Islam's great, but he got caught by Adriano Martins. Like anyone can get caught. I'll be rooting for Poirier in this one pretty hard.
Yeah, there would be something poetic about Dustin Poirier, all of what he's been through, and what he's said and what he's accomplished, and then winning this fight against Islam with a guillotine, jumping the gilly and getting the belt. I'm kind of rooting for that to happen.
Man, I remember when he fought Habib and he had the guillotine. I think at first he didn't know how serious it was, and then he kind of went to reload it. My assumption, my like perception of like what he learned from that is, I think if he had committed to it on the first go, he could have really made it because he made Habib roll to his back. Now, granted, Habib rolled to his back for about 1 second and then came up on a single and then took his back. But it even inspired me to like go closed guard gillies or no gillies at all. And I remember I had modified my game for a while after that fight. It's like gone through its cycles and has been modified and modified since. And I've changed things up a bit. But dude, he's got a good guillotine. But the moral of the story, I don't know if Islam and Habib are guillotinable. I really don't. Like those dudes shoot so much, and I'm sure they have gotten out of tens of thousands of guillotines. I just don't know if that's gonna be a move that can even work on them.
Well, most likely there's no jumping the gilly in your fight, man. June 1st, UFC 302. Hey, you're back in action. Hey, you're on pace to get like 5 fights this year. Hopefully it happens.
And that would put me over $1 million. My goal, man. If I could make $1 million in a year fighting, that's wild. But yeah, 5 fights too. It would be awesome. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I agree. I'm never overlooking anything. I am not looking past
Hmm.
this first. But that does give me like 7 full months because it's the first of that 6 months. 7 full months to
Yeah.
fight. Man, I love to fight so much more. Yeah. So I feel like I did a good job navigating myself into this position. And
Mhm.
yeah, man, I appreciate you acknowledging that.